Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all on Fagin Live. It is Thursday, 14th of April. Time is 10 p.m. Moscow and Kiev. It's semi-anniversary, day 50 of the war in Ukraine. Alexey Arestovich is our guest again. Glad to see you. We have about 90,000 people watching us. 8,000 people liked the video. Thank you everybody who is joining us at this hour. Please do not forget to share the links to this cast. And do not forget to like. Also, if you're watching this in English, do not forget to subscribe to the Privateer station. At the links below this video, you can find Alexei's channel and Mark's channel. I think it would be right to discuss cruiser Moscow. There are a lot of controversial opinions walking on the web, and I keep hearing different versions. One of them says it was being towed to Sevastopol. What do we know today? All right, Mark, I cannot disclose the actual classified information. The data floating around is controversial, so we need to wait till it subsides into one version of the event. In any case, it is inoperable, and ever since Tsushima fight back in 1905, this is the first flagship of Russia that has been defeated, destroyed, or sunk. But not even in the First World War, not in the Second World War. So this is one of the biggest ships sunk during the history of military conflicts. If we're trying to gauge the capability of this cruiser, it is about one tank division with addition of some of the cruise missiles and radio warfare capabilities. So let's clarify. Russian side is not saying this was hit by Neptune missiles, and they're also saying that it might have been blinded by Bayraktar. Is anything known about that? Well, if it was hit, they managed to somehow hit it. On the Ukrainian side did acknowledge that they hit it. We're not officially acknowledging things. In our opinion, there was some internal problem on the cruiser, same thing as there was an internal issue in Bryansk Oblast. You know, Russian generals have been saying that Ukraine aviation was destroyed and we're out of many other resources, so they have to make their mind. What do we have? What do we not have? Oh, I hear the air sirens going off. Yeah, they're going off every 5 minutes or so, so that's all right. I wanted to say a smart thing about troubles happening to those people who intend to harm us. All right. Can you clarify a little bit? Does it mean that on the southern direction, with absence of Moscow, who was covering the possible naval attacks and missile launches, and who actually launched a lot of missiles itself, without that cruiser, Russia isn't capable of deploying Marines in, let's say, Odessa? It would have been very difficult before, and it's more difficult now. Because he had a lot of S-300 naval-based type complexes, and he was providing protection umbrella for a lot of other naval targets. And another thing, it is a flagship, so there are a lot of head officers of the naval command of Russian Federation on it. So right now we still don't know how many people survived. One sources say 14 people, others say 50, and we don't know who exactly survived. We also do not know how many captains of the first rank and admirals were dining on that ship at that night. All right, more or less it's clear. So our understanding, it should be a bit easier on the southern direction. It will likely be easier for our aviation in the south. I can tell you what is modern warfare like. For example, on Svetlodarskaya Duga, where I served, when I needed to create a new observation point, it was 32 meters to that new spot from our current trench. And for several days I was measuring the degree of sunlight, the angle of it, shooting diagrams, heights, altitudes. Only 3 days later of all these calculations, I could give an order to my guys to move out and take it and set up the post. So that breach that we have now in the south, it still needs to be gauged. And it is not a simple thing, because it was constantly moving. That umbrella was moving one side or to another, and it probably was covering Kherson group as well. And how much did it cover? Our specialists will have to gauge it. So if they calculate that there is indeed a breach in the southern front for our measures to be used, we of course shall use it. All right, we'll return to the cruiser event at the future casts. It's a significant event. At least the threats that came from Konashenko in the previous day, that they'll be targeting the center of command as a retaliation to this attack. Yeah, right, center of command. Yeah, they might actually try hitting it. I hope they don't during our live casts. But do you think Russian side will actually think of retaliatory actions and look for a way to pay back for the sunken cruiser? Since people discuss that, I need to ask you that question. What if they want to sink something? The logic says that they should. We don't know where and how, but Chernigov district, Sumskaya district, maybe that'll be one of the attempts, one of the targets. We have 230,000 people watching us live. That kind of happened almost immediately. 160,000 joined. When you come watch our cast, please do not forget to join, to subscribe to Alexei's and Mark's channels, as well as Privateer Station if you're watching it in English. Did anything change during the last day? Did we see any movements? Any precursors to the beginning of offensive on the east? It's raining out there. It's not a good weather for attack. There are some artillery duels, a little bit of the close fighting, but this is not a major offensive. This is just some moves as their side is being very careful in implementing. They're saving their powers and people at this point. Probably because there's much less troops at the moment on this front, so they have to count. As for Kherson, one of our storm brigades confirmed taking smaller villages in that area. They reported that they've been successful and they are continuing their advancement. So that's Kherson. What about Kharkov in the north? No, there is nothing major happening there. Some artillery shelling is happening. Nobody's advancing on the ground. Nothing on Izum? Yeah, there's nothing. I just said before, little fights, artillery duels, that's Izum. What about Mariupol? Any news from that UAV that there was some chemical dropped from it on the steel factory? It is hard to tell. There's no laboratory available to find for remnants of that capsule and analyze them. So unknown chemical compound was used. All right, so let's go to the international affairs. Biden said that he's going to visit Kiev. In your opinion, how real it is and does it mean anything? Well, presidents usually do not throw these things out in the wind. It's a pretty rare occasion, especially when it's so brief and precise, so it is political. And that's your situation in Kiev. On one hand, you have the air raid sirens, on the other, French embassies returning to city. So it is a strange normalization of the city. Some Kievan citizens who are coming back to Kiev and then, coming out and saying, yeah, no, it's too early to go back to the city. People are joking that they just want to live without traffic for a few days. And it's been a nice weather for a few days here. If he comes, it'll be one of the stronger symbolic support gestures. He likely will not come just by himself. He'll probably bring some gifts, just like Boris Johnson, just like the other four presidents who were here yesterday. Thirdly, it will also support the status of Kiev as one of the important centers for safety in the world at this moment. There likely will be some political statements and decisions made. So there's definitely going to be an agenda, probably a new set of sanctions and some increase in military assistance. So, in response to Moscow's decision to continue fighting, continue war, the West decided to give more heavy armaments. Did they even suspect that Moscow will concede and stop fighting? I think after the Istanbul meeting, there was some notions of possible peace. But later, according to the statements made by Putin on the spaceport Vostochny, they are still going to continue with war. So I understand they gathered a bit more potential, a bit more troops, and they want to try to realize more of the victory. So basically, Russia and West have made their mind about their continuation and the future course. Of course, Ukraine is in the center of it, but Russia made a statement, and the West decided, all right, we'll support that fighting against Russia then. So now they're talking about more UAVs. How are they different from Bayraktars? Main important thing, they're different class and they have more fighting capability. They can actually strike equipment as they carry armaments. They carry ammo. So statements that they were afraid to use before, it actually means a lot that they're using them now in the open. Our West allies. So let's go back to Medvedchuk. Anything changes in his situation? Now we have his spouse on the stage actively, and I'm quite sure that she was called, "Hey baby, let's go with your statements," and she's going. I understand she lives in Belarus or Moscow now or somewhere. She's not in Ukraine, and she's sort of a conveyor of posting different statements online, and she's made a statement even for Erdogan in Turkey. And I see that Turkey is actually responding to her statement. And Erdogan mentioned that he'll go talk to Zelensky and see if anything can be done. So, yeah, she's throwing a hook saying he's an opposition leader that is being unlawfully detained. What do you think? Is there a way that they just take him and give him to any party? No, I don't see them doing it. People of Ukraine will never forgive such an action, and people of Ukraine will not let the powers to do that. So if there'll be any exchange, he likely will be exchanged for several tens of our war fighters, maybe for those who are in Mariupol now. And that's what President said a few days ago. So what's the stance now? Refusing from it? No. We need to gauge his exchange potential. We need to figure out his value. Another question is, does he really want to be back in Moscow? Because he was one who actually profiteered from Moscow money that they sent supposedly for their supporters in Ukraine, and that never realized. So one of the ways would be, why not to push him to make statements, to confess that he was working for FSB, he was working for Putin. I do not see him going and making any of those political statements. He's a professional who's been working in it for 30, 40 years. So he understands that if he'll give some statements publicly about Putin and his special forces and all, and FSB, some of his doors will close immediately, so he'll be very careful and likely will just stay mum about most of things. He might spill a little bit, the bare minimum that he has to. And on the other hand, Ukrainian services also are competent, and in the situation where there are irrefutable documents and proof of his participation in different things, it'll be hard for him to not speak. Are you sure we can make him a valuable product? I would not call him a product or a price regarding the live people. We're not being cynical, we're just trying to gauge the situation. So, yeah, I misspoke. It's probably the best way to say is his exchange potential. I do not feel any warm feelings towards him. Right, me neither, but we have to be very precise. So, product in parentheses, fruitcake in parentheses. Okay, what's happening in Moscow? I'll say what I know. Today I was checking with some people. I'm not getting confirmation that FSB General Beseda is in Lefortovo, KGB prison. He's either hidden under a different surname or he's not there. Regarding Shoigu, some sources say he's sick. Could be, nobody knows how serious. He is nearing 70. He's about Putin's age. And nobody sees his personal car near Ministry of Defense, so he's not going to work. Further, one source of ours who usually has some data mentioned that it appears that some materials are being taken out of military intel department. No details, but something seems to be happening. So that information about 20 generals arrested and Shoigu nearly bedridden, this is neither confirmed nor denied. Is there anything known in Ukraine? There is one thing here. There is a problem. In the lack of information environment, and people do want to get that information because they do want to somehow turn in towards these different feelings they have. Conspirology just grows and blooms over that. So, for example, Leonid Nevzlin, how long does he live in Israel? Since 2003, so like 20 years almost. Okay, so in that situation, which actual sources would he have in Moscow? So through him, it's pretty easy to see the conspirological versions reappearing. I am very careful about stating unsupported facts. It is interesting, all those statements about airplanes flying in different directions from Moscow, but without any additional supportive data, it's really hard to elaborate that. So without the data about the coup, or were they trying to push the red button, or they were just wiping dust of it, it is hard to tell. So I do not see a reason going into this. So you're saying that in the places in Ukraine which you visit regularly, there are no confirmations to these facts. Well, in special services and in intel, it is very scientific. You need to have facts. You need to have real facts to confirm. So far, the facts are lacking. We can only suggest that it likely will go this way, that there likely will be some cleansing in Russian generals, like Beseda, and these facts. It was voiced that he may be arrested, but there is no data. Or there is, just look at how you make your statements. For the information, based on the information that needs additional confirmation, or based on some sources, these are not hard facts. This is just kind of a faulty way of thinking that these facts are somewhat stable. They're not. We can speak not about hypotheses or facts, but we can speak about tendencies, a general concept of how things likely will unfold. So a general concept in this situation would be somebody will be punished over a failed operation. Of course. Those people who were managing troops on the battlefield, they should be taken away very last because they actually have experience doing it. So it's complex. And who was arrested and who was put in jail and who was tortured with pliers and other devices, some people leave in the comments, we simply don't know. So another factor is some people would throw this specific information into the field to basically put a stake in the ground and say, yes, Kremlin will punish these people, but a little later, even if they're not punished now, but that's where it'll go. Another problem, though, is that when this information starts to come out, and if it's so controversial and there are many versions, they might be used as obscure method to obscure other things that are happening. Was somebody arrested? Did somebody flee? It is really hard to tell that what's happening. Behind such a thick wall of smoke and mirrors, it is only created in one situation when they're trying to hide something, and then you need to figure out what is being hidden. So it then goes back to who made this information appear in the public sphere. Was it Kremlin, or was it those who potentially may be arrested? We have 235,000 people watching us. Pretty respectable number, not because we are enjoying that. We know how the algorithms work, so please leave a like to that video and subscribe to it and share it through the media. We have stats from and some data from Russian tops how nervous they are because of our casts here, so please help us support that. More advancements in your life, Alexei? In DNR, you're extremist. In Belarus, you're a terrorist. I'll just quote a poem here. On the 5th of April, bodyguards in the murky morning saw the Germans advancing in a column. So yeah, basically they're just looking into the mist and trying to pull something. Belarus and DNR decided that I've done something offensive to them and started a criminal prosecution case after me. Russia didn't yet. Well, you know, if Russia starts that, they'll basically raise your status further and raise your popularity. You know, they gave me a status of foreign agent, hoping, and gave it quietly, hoping it'll just bypass. But it did cause a splash, and it actually caused more people to come to my channel.
And one of the messages is that they're equal to us, and we should be not shy fighting them.
So here's another thing, that you're a foreign agent, and I'm a foreign agent by default. I am from the foreign country. So you can't really give me that status, but we'll see. All right, in your opinion, negotiations. You probably have talked with Mikhail after our yesterday's communication. Kind of tired of him at this moment. He's writing his comments right next to me at work, and I cannot even discuss his statement, because after having read everything that he wrote, I have no rights to comment it. So I only can look to my right at my work when I'm there and say, Mikhail, I need more freedom. That's the thing. It's only him or president who can comment certain things. So the fact that, although the president, please say what you think about it. Okay, general thing. They're ongoing. It is pretty difficult because they have to negotiate every single step, every article, and they need to come to agreement on most of the articles, and that's the same logic that the top leaders will go meeting and signing things only if there are at least 70% of items that are in agreement. So you're still of a mind that they'll try that eastern offensive one more time before signing anything? Absolutely. Why else to aggregate all that power, all that might on the Eastern Front? To just say we changed our mind? Of course they'll try, and we'll get back to negotiations and see what happens. So what do you think about Lukashenko's visit with Moscow on the 12th of April? Do you think Belarus' participation in the military operation is completely out of question?
Вооруженных сил, или же еще остается какой-то шанс, и Москва лелеет надежду его согнуть все-таки и заставить.
Putin would have never agreed to Belarus hosting negotiations if they were to fight in this war, and since Putin agreed to them being grounds for negotiations, that means that Belarus is not going to partake in a military operation. So what else can they get from Belarus? I mean, Lukashenko is a smart politician. He, you would say, he volunteered to be the negotiation ground for that reason, to avoid getting dragged into the conflict. But even if they did, what do they get from Belarus? 5, 10 battle groups of an equality that can turn. So What is the reason for Belarus to fight? If they come here and start fighting with us, imagine their divisions going to Ukraine. They may actually face other Belarus fighters that are fighting for Ukraine in this war. And nobody can project how will that end for the Belarus army. So what I can say, we value your lives, our Belarus brothers, so you may want to save your resources to save your country when there is a threat to it, and there is a threat to it from a Russian army. And if you want to cross the border, we would gladly take you here as our allies. If they still push you to fight against us and give you equipment and arms, cross the border and come join our fight. And if you change the side and start fighting for Ukraine, you'll become heroes just like that. You'll be people who made a difficult moral choice to abandon the dictator and fight for the freedom. So that's an immediate win for you. You know, Belarus have put you on a terrorist list for a reason. You're too effective. All right, last question. Long discussion about the possibility of the thermonuclear war. Do you think that this question of potential thermonuclear conflict aspect to this war is taken off agenda, especially after losing Moscow and all? Yeah, speaking of ships, the Black Sea Fleet of Russian Federation pretty much fled right after Moscow sank. As for Putin, it is questionable. He is enraged over this war, he is too involved, and I have a feeling he might be challenged, or he might be interested in using some kind of tactical nuclear weapon. Although, as a person who is specializing in profiling, after watching his statements made in Vostochny and the way his feet moved and the way his body moved, it was conveying a lot of concerns and very deep insecurities about how to do and what to do. All right, let's again take a look at this situation. Imagine they use tactical nuke. What will happen? There likely might be a response. Maybe not nuclear, but very strong and effective. Or they might turn certain things that other means may be used against Russia. For example, West, after seeing burning remnants of wherever they use that nuke, the whole world will look at that and see that this leader is crazy. Let's see where West would go first. Ukraine? No, China. The whole West will go to China. And they'll go to China and say, hey, how much do you like living next door to such an idiot who is putting us on the verge of nuclear war? And Chinese might say, no, we don't like it. And they might start pushing really serious buttons. One thing is Western sanctions, another if China also slams the door on Russia. And then Putin will face another question. Does he want to do what? Throw another nuke at China for that pressure? And then together with India, West, and China, they will of course find right levers. I can imagine in that situation the officers of security, of Putin's security, becoming billionaires overnight and the situation getting resolved real fast. So such situation can be resolved preventatively if it is voiced out this way. You know, these people like Zakharova, who is making statements from Moscow about the conflict and all, and nuclear shades of it, they're forgetting about China in their statements. Because guess what NATO will do? if there is any nuclear situation happening, NATO is going to China. And China does not need nukes. And if against the West, Russia can threaten Finland and some action there, there is nothing Russia can threaten China with. So it'll resolve that question almost overnight. All right, tomorrow is Friday. We're still talking tomorrow? Yes. 373,000 people watching us. That is a lot. We've been online for 35 minutes, and again, I appeal to this 335,000. Please share links to that cast, press the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. We have links to both Mark's account and Alexei's account, and after you subscribe to these channels and leave your likes, it actually pushes YouTube algorithms to promote this information further. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow. Thank you, our viewers. Thank you. Hi to Mikola. Likewise. Good luck.